Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classical Republican. Today we are talking about distributism. It's an economic system based on Christian beliefs. It's neither capitalism nor socialism, and it's viable under classical republicanism, just as capitalism is and socialism can be. But yeah, if I were to tell you some parts of it, you would say, oh, well, that's capitalism. And they're actually anti-capitalist. And if I told you about other parts of it, you would say, well, that's socialism. And they're actually anti-socialist. So they actually argue that these ideas come from the Old Testament or from Aristotle. Aristotle said that the best societies are those where there is well, not really the best society, but he said that it was a bad thing to have widespread inequality, and that idea is carried on throughout classical republicanism, from Aristotle to Machiavelli, Harrington, Pettit today talks about that. So let me tell you about it. If I can, let me stop sharing. There we go. Why is this not working? Let me go in the way I usually go. Okay, so here we go. Distributism. Now, the history really begins in 1890 with the papal encyclical by Pope Leo XIII, called Rerum Novarum, on new things in 1890, and he talks about this. Then you have writers like Chesterton, who's writes about everything, and this is his chosen economic model. And you have Belloc, who is a historian, and he writes about distributism. Today you have Dale Alquist, who is, I believe he's he's the head of the Chesterton Society today, and he promotes the distributism. And then there's also the American Solidarity Party, and they are trying to attempt to put theory into practice, but they have not elected any candidate to office that I know of yet. So here are some principles. You have subsidiary, and that's where governments are supposed to stay in their lane. You have national, state, or local, or if you're in another country, national, provincial, local. And it's kind of a strict version of federalism, but it's more practical. It's more practicality in mind. You're supposed to just, if you have an issue, just whichever government is best at fixing that. So say you have streets or water problems, most likely it's going to be the local. They say you need defense, then the national will be better. So overall, there's just a distrust of centralization. Next, let's go on to solidarity, cooperative economic system. So things like guilds, co-ops, they like things that are locally owned and produced. So everything should be, everyone needs to have the ability to provide for themselves, and so you don't have a boss situation like you do today in modern capitalism. So we're looking at small businesses, farmers who live on their farms, and guilds where there's kind of a collective authority and management of that craft. Next we go on to respect for the human person, and it's usually summarized by like just do the right thing by people. And that goes into like they call it the ASP calls it a whole life um, policy. So no abortion, but also they're against the death penalty. Um, and of course, ending your life early, they're against that. But they believe that people should be treated well. You have babies will be born, and they'll be born into family households that will be able to take care of them and educate them properly, and then they'll be able to grow up and uh, do their own thing to be able to make them um, self-sufficient. And so they're not going to have to live a life of drudgery. Um, so you have the right to property. They believe in free markets. So you can be self-sufficient, but not laissez-faire capitalism. The ambitious should be rewarded, the greedy and corrupt punished. And so this is very similar to what Mazzini. Of course, Mazzini died in the 1870s, so he never read Rerum Novarum, and he never talked about distributism. But of course, the ideas that he promoted, the economic system that he promoted, was actually very similar to distributism. So Mazzini, great Republican in Italy, always talked about combining capital and labor, and that is something that distributists also talk about. Never mentioning Mazzini, but it's still the same idea. So here are some examples from history. You have Huey Long. I don't think he was, considered himself a distributist, but he probably wanted a little bit more government intervention than most distributists wanted. Huey Long was not really a socialist, but he had this share our wealth program, where if you made over a certain amount, it needed to be redistributed to poorer people. You have the Tiller program in Taiwan, and I'm going to be doing another video on that. And I'll also be most likely be doing an interview or another video on Mondragon, which is a co-op in Spain. Yeah, so this is a very interesting economic system. And so it's very, as I said earlier, it's very viable under a Republican system, because it stresses the principles of non-domination. You're not dominated by a boss economically, so you are free to make your own choices. Yeah, sort of the federal checks and balances, and so yeah, this is very interesting. We've got more videos coming on this topic, but this is where we'll start. And until next time, long live the Republic.